Thank you, Paul. Amos.
Ditto to all the comments to our superintendent, and my prayers are with him as he continues to lead this huge enterprise and to do so very capably and with many, many, many good results. I also wanted to speak to the number of people who came to talk about the 2 pieces of literature that some of our students are reading. It was in many ways encouraging for me to see that there does exist, although they're often silent, that there does exist a group of young people out there who do not want to be bombarded with profanity and vulgarity, and they expect that there should be some sanctuary from that, and I believe that the school system ought to be that sanctuary because the world offers it every second of every day. So I was very pleased to see those young people and their parents and the other adult leaders here speaking out against those quote-unquote pieces of literature.
Thank you. And I actually appreciate Amos bringing that up because I was going to refer to that for a moment as well. I want to say I appreciate the fact that there's a number of people who feel strongly about an issue and bring it to our attention in the way that they have. And I also appreciate the fact that our students participated in the discussion in a very well-spoken way, and something that in a way that we can all be proud of in terms of how they addressed the issues. There's a couple of things arising out of this discussion that I think could and would, I hope, be helpful. And these are comments intended to be helpful. I understand one speaker was intending to refer directly to the text of the books that are assigned for purposes of illustrating what in that speaker's mind were offensive passages, among others, in the book, and indicated did not have the opportunity to read all the passages believed to be offensive. And part of that, I think, was to make the point that it's not to be read by students in a belief, a sincere belief, I think, that that's not appropriate. To go through the process, we have a policy with respect to our reading. The policy, of course, includes that the reading books are selected by schools, and there's a process that it goes through. There's also there's alternatives available for people who don't want to read certain books. There's also, and this is the main thing I want to emphasize, as part of the policy is an appeal process. That is, if people believe that books are inappropriate or not, or should be reconsidered as whether they're proper literature for students who are 17 or 18 to read, that there is a way to appeal that. Obviously, there's people who are very concerned because one of the speakers indicated there were over 2,000 signatures expressing concern about 2 of the works that had been assigned. We also know that several of our English teachers have worked together and found some literary merit to the books for purposes of having the assignment. So what we have is a clear difference of viewpoint. The policy that we have does not, as was indicated by some speakers, does not indicate that it would then be that the board would read all the books for all the different high schools and then would try to come to some collective judgment of 11 without the educational background and experience to make judgments about what would be proper literary works for people to read. On the other hand, the fact that educators have made these decisions by having looked at the books is not something that's beyond being appealed or challenged. And with 2,000 signatures, it would seem appropriate that there's a strong belief that it would be appropriate to revisit and appeal and challenge whether those are the appropriate books. We do have that process. That's part of our policy. That's why the board included it as part of the policy. And for people who feel strongly, and they clearly do, and I'm very respectful of that, I urge them to utilize the policies that have been set up by the board so that that appeal process can be initiated and appropriately reviewed. That would be the next step in terms of board policy for consideration about this, and that would be the next, hopefully, very healthy and productive discussion and exchange of ideas, which is what we want. Again, referring, just to end, with the speaker who's making the direct references, expressing his concern about it, The books, to the extent they were approved, and I understand there's several people who, again, feel strongly they shouldn't have been, were approved for students 17 and 18 years old. And so in making the point exactly that way, and obviously the board's been notified about concerns about the book and has some awareness of the contents of the books, they were never approved for 5 or 6-year-olds, for example, some of whom were here, and I'm sure some of whom may have been watching on TV. And so my concern, of course, is for those who are bothered, for anyone who is bothered by that, I don't think it was the intent of the speaker to focus on that. It was the intent of the speaker to bring very much to the board's attention. But I do apologize to the extent anybody heard remarks that were of concern with respect to children of a much younger age, while at the same time recognizing that our speakers who have concerns about issues appropriately do need to bring them to the board, and we need to know about them. So this is one of those times where democracy is not always easy. Sometimes it's very difficult. I believe it was one of those times when we had to work through competing interests, and to the extent as part of that competition there was any concerns on the part of some people with respect to younger children, that was not our intent, and I frankly don't think it was the speaker's intent either. But I did think it was important to say that before the meeting was over. And with that, I think we're ready for a motion to adjourn. All in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? All right. Thank you all very much.